Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how you can develop your player's position skills by doing dedicated stations. I'm going to cover the drills for your catchers, first baseman, middle infield, third baseman, and your outfielders. Equipment needed is 2 bonnets and some pylons. So here's how you do the player position stations. So let's start off with the catching position. So you're going to want to have a pitcher with you in this station. So you have the pitcher on the mound, and then you'll have your catcher. So if you have other catchers, they can wait for their turn. And the first drill for this one, basically, all they're going to be doing is throwing pass balls. So the pitcher's going to throw one in and then make sure that it goes as a pass ball. And then all they're going to be doing is backing it up. So the pitcher's going to come, back up that throw. Catcher's going to go grab the ball, right? And then they're going to be throwing that ball to simulate if there's a runner coming in from third base to get that tag. Okay, so throwing the ball in different locations, right? So behind there. So this is also great. If this is your home diamond, then you know your backstop. You know how either big it is or how small it is. Also where the bounces are, if there's, something on the fence or whatever it is. So this is where you can practice. So all the pitchers are going to be doing sort of throwing pass balls, and then the catcher is going to be actually fielding them and practicing that. So the other drill that you can be doing, so you can have the catchers swap, is to do the pop-ups. So basically the pitcher and the catcher. So if you have another catcher here or a coach that can help you with this, basically the pitcher is going to simulate pitching the ball, right? And, the motion, and what happens right here is you're going to have the other player, or if it's a coach or someone, throwing a pop-up around the fence area, right? So this is like around that area. So like if it's a foul, but it's a pop-up that can be played. This is where the pitcher has to come in and get used to coming in and pointing, telling the catcher, this is to your right, this is to your left. So it becomes force of habit for the pitchers to start pointing up into the air, right? Pointing up and saying, hey, it's above you to your right, it's above you to your left, it's straight up, right? So all they're doing in this person is throwing the ball every single time, okay? So this is a drill that your catchers can be doing, and then we'll introduce them into the other stations after. So let's do the first base position. So for first base, you're going to have 2 people here. So if you can have a coach to start it off. So for a lot of these drills, you need a dedicated coach, or you can actually just have a coach start with them and they get used to it. And then after a couple times they've done this, then you can have the players just swap. So if you have a couple catchers, they're going to do that. If you have a couple of first basemen, they'll be doing it. So for this drill here, you're going to have the catcher in the catching position. The pitcher, the first baseman in their position right here. And all they're doing is running back to the bag, okay? And then all they're going to be doing, so it's a progression of the drill. And so the first baseman's now going to stretch. So they're going to run back to the bag. Just make this go a little bit farther. So you're going to have the other first baseman start over here. They're going to run back to the bag, right? So they're going to go from here, run back to the bag, and then the other first baseman is going to just throw the ball different ways, right? So either wide, and they're going to be practicing stretching for that ball, right? So the first baseman is going to step on the bag and then lean out, stretch for that ball, and then sell it, right? Just practice. It comes force of habit to sell it, to look at the ump and show them that you have that ball, okay? Then after the progression of this, then you're going to actually start having you're going to have, so they can switch, and then when they go back to the bag, you're going to actually have them throw the ball, but they're going to be short hops. So it's going to be short hop, so they have to scoop it, right? Short hop, so it'll be on their backhand, depending on if your first baseman is a righty or lefty, right? So do it on both sides. So make sure it hops so they get used to scooping that ball, okay? They're going to be scooping that ball in their backhand, scooping it in front of them, scooping it on the forehand, so they get used to that motion. Balls being thrown from third base, shortstop, or even if you want to move over here, and then throw the balls from here, and then they'll be catching it like from the second baseman's point of view, throwing that ball and then scooping the balls. Okay. So again, another drill for your first baseman to practice the progression from this running to the bags, and then stretching, selling it, showing the ump, and then to a point where they're actually just doing the one hops, right? So they're the scoops that they're scooping up from the throws. Okay, so that's the first baseman position for that station. So for middle infielders, so your shortstop and second base, this is where you need your bonnet. So I put a bonnet right here. I actually have a coach sitting on a bucket right here. And then they'll be sitting on the bucket and they're going to be feeding the balls. So the only difference here is you're going to have your shortstop, you're going to have your second baseman, and all they're doing is practicing. So they're going to throw a grounder here. The coaches, shortstop's going to come, and then they're going to feed that ball to them. So when they feed it, then they're going to come and they're either going to run through that bag and they're going to throw it into the net. Okay, so just simulating like they're doing a double play. Okay, so same thing here if we do it this way. So now instead of the two, they're going to throw it over to short, and then twos are going to come over, right? Twos are going to come over to the bag, and this is where you practice where they're stepping on the bag. So they're going to come, they're going to step on that bag, they're going to step back, right? Depending where the momentum's taking them, but they should practice that step back. Shortstop's going to throw it, they're going to step back, and they're going to throw in the net. Or if the momentum's taking them really quickly, they're going to run through that bag and they're going to make that throw on that run into that bonnet. Okay, so all you're doing here is just sort of the actual coach is going to be feeding two, and then they're going to be feeding short, feeding two, feeding short. So if you have a couple short stops, they're just going to take turns, and they're going to be feeling that. And then you can get to a point where you're not throwing it directly at them. You're actually throwing it to their backhand, you're throwing it to their forehand, and they're making those plays that are more difficult where they need to turn two, and then they're coming through that bag and they're making that throw into the actual bonnet to simulate a double play. Okay, that's the station for the middle infield. And then now you're going to have the station for the third baseman. So here, we're going to put another bonnet right around here. Okay, actually, let me lower that a bit. So I'm going to put it a little bit lower over here. So hopefully this doesn't interfere with the pitching. The pitcher here who's doing that drill, you can have them move to the side more. And this is where you're going to have the third baseman practice. So there's one thing I actually forgot to mention about the first baseman you can practice. So this is where if you have the other third baseman there, you can have one person, and all they're going to be doing is doing a slow roller, or it looks like a bunt. So it's going to be a slow roller coming this way. They're going to be charging that ball, and they're going to be throwing on the run, like a sidearm throw into the bonnet, which is to be simulating you throwing it to first base. Okay, so these are slow rollers, take turns. These are bunts that they're going to be doing. And then at the same time, when they're done this drill, you can actually have one of the other third basemen here, and then just practice them throwing the ball from left field or center field. If there's a runner that's coming around to the base, practicing them straddling that bag, and then, making that throw, right? And then practicing that tag to have that glove in front of third base, right? To practice getting out that runner. So for third base, you're going to practice either a bunt, slow roller, throwing into the net, and then an outfield throw for a runner that's coming into third, okay? I did forget to mention there's another drill you can do on first base, and that is a bunt. So if this is your first baseman, you'll have another first baseman right here. And all they're doing is, if you can have another player that's simulating playing second base, okay, all you're doing is doing a little bunt here. That person who is the first baseman is going to come in to charge it, and they're going to practice flipping that ball to that second baseman right here. Okay, so that's another drill that you can be practicing. Again, you get a lot of bunts, either down first base or third base, and then practicing charging that bunt and then throwing that ball back, an underhand toss back to that second baseman who's covering the bag. Okay, so we've covered catcher position, first, middle infield, and third base, and now your outfielder is that station. So this is where we're going to have two stations for the outfielders. So this one here, you're going to have a coach out here, and then you're going to have the rest of, maybe you can have a couple fielders here, and then one who's starting that position. So this drill basically is, so if the coach, you can have them close proximity. So the coach has a ball in their hand. If they point the ball straight up, that means that this ball is going to go straight behind them. So they're going to drop step and they're going to run back. And then they're going to throw that ball and they're going to catch it. Okay? So if this ball and this coach is now going to do, right, so they're here. If they actually raise their hand to the right-hand side, okay, so they're going to, the right hand, but they raise it and they point to the right side, then what happens is they're drop stepping and now they're going to go to their left for them, okay, and vice versa. So if the coach puts the arm up and points it to the left, then this player is going to drop step and go to their right now and then throw that ball and they're going to catch it. Okay, so they're going to catch that ball in the outfield. So you can get to a point where everyone's going, but you want to get to a point where they're learning to drop step. So if you can actually have the coach lift their arm up starting to the right and then move to the left. So this is where you have the player actually go start here, come here, maybe they bring it back, and then they're drop stepping, turning their body, and then they're throwing the ball and they're catching it. So that's one of the stations. And then the other station you're going to have on the other side. Okay, and so this is where we're going to have another coach here. And so this is exactly like the run, forest, run drill. If you haven't seen that video, please make sure to watch it. It's called Run, Forest, Run. And then you can have your players, other players lined up here, one person starting. And then all you're doing is throwing the ball into these spots. So they're going to catch it. They're going to run. Then the coach is going to throw another ball. And then they're going to run over here. And then they're going to catch it. And then it's good to probably have a third one. So they're going to run again. And then the coach is going to throw it there. And then you can actually have them go back. So they're going to go back, catch, go back, catch. And then the next person goes. So as you can see, you're utilizing the whole field. You're having each player practice their actual position. So if they're outfielders, they'll be doing the outfield drills. And then if they're first baseman, middle infield, third base, or catchers, they're going to be working on the drills for their specific position. So again, this is a great, and this can run all practice. You can do it for, most of the practice and then end with a game. And then they're practicing on their specific positions, within these stations. So again, this is great to make sure that everyone is honing in on their specific skill sets for those positions so they get better at it. So enjoy this. Again, this is the player position stations to help your players develop their skills for the actual positions. And I want to add here is after the first base station has done the drills and the third base, depending on which one finishes first, I'd like you introduce the catcher into some of these drills as well. So the one thing you can work on is throwdowns. So I think it's very important. So you'll see you have your pitcher, and they can just underhand toss slightly, repetition over and over to your catchers, where they'll have, right? So if you have your first base ready, all they're going to be doing is light toss. Catchers are going to throw, from their knees or whatever, down over to first base over and over, so you can have a bucket where they're filling it up, right? So they're practicing making that throw right to the outside. So if someone's leading off, and they're coming back to that bag, that they want to tag them out, right? So same thing on third base, right? So making that throw, and then they're either coming off that bag and then throwing over to third base. So a good way to sort of put it all together, when some of the stations have finished, and even if the middle infielders have finished as well, you can have all of them working. So you can say, depending if it's a right-handed or left-handed batter, right, you're going to be making those throws. So let me clean this up a bit. Right, so you'll have shortstop, second base, and then throw coming down, and then the throwing to the bag, right? So throwing to the bag. So again, this is a good way to wrap it all up when they've done a lot of their stations and the repetition is there to practice with the catchers, with throwdowns to first, throwdowns to third, and a throwdown like someone stealing going to second base. Okay? Great way to wrap things up. Thanks for watching Easy Softball Drills for your practice plan. Make sure to check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel.